I think Satan thought this was the end game. But as always, he took his evil too far. He overestimated his abilities, and as always, he underestimated God. God does not care if the devil thinks it's the end. It's not over till God says it's over. And brothers and sisters, it's not over. In 2009, careful photographers were allowed to put the Codex Sinaiticus online. The powers that be were certain that their best text, their proof text, literally was unassailable. So why not put it online? But the enemy always goes too far. Unseen spiritual forces lay behind this global agenda to get Christians, as well as everyone else, to set aside the King James Bible and similar translations in other languages so the Roman Catholic system could move unopposed to set up one world Bible for one world religion. But something went wrong. Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. There are people who are trying to lift up the Codex Sinaiticus all over again and to put down anyone who trusts in God's preserved words in English, the King James Bible. Believers, I want to encourage you in your faith. And you who have some doubts, please consider the evidence. I invite you to go to www.codexsinaiticus.org website. It has amazing information. It tells about the meticulous work of some professional photographers. You can see some of their state-of-the-art equipment. You can bask in the science-y stuff all over the place. Seriously, it is a geek's paradise. By geek, I mean text geek or history geek or paleography geek. Even theology geek, if you don't mind the heresies and Gnosticism in the text of the Sinaiticus. Anyone who tells you these photographers didn't do their job with extreme dedication, I think that person has an agenda. Seriously, they should give up on that kind of slander or libel of these professionals. I have nothing but respect for them. They worked really hard to give us beautifully detailed photos of each page of the Sinaiticus parchments. I took those high definition, highly accurate photographs and I made a huge mosaic out of them and had them printed as a poster. No picture was retouched or modified in any way. They are exactly as they came, straight from those photographs. That made it easy to look at the whole of the Sinaiticus in a single glance. And that's why I put it on the cover of Is the World's Oldest Bible a Fake? The trick to unraveling mysteries is to ask really simple questions. From my childhood, friends would notice the red birthmark on my face. And they'd ask, "What's that red stuff on your face?" That's a simple question, isn't it? They didn't ask because they were mean. Well, not every time. They asked because they noticed the massive difference between that red and the rest of my skin. It's different, so that must mean something. It's the same with the Sinaiticus. Look at all the darker, stained pages. See how it makes them look older? Then look at the 86 pages of white. It's striking, isn't it? Don't blame the photographers. They had a whole list of rules to follow to ensure accuracy. These guys were smart. Don't blame the cardboard the animal skins were set on. Don't blame the equipment. You don't think these scientific professionals who do this for a living hadn't thought of that? Of course they have. But that leaves you with the same question I was left with. What color is it? It had to originally be just one color. Was it the stained and darkened one? If so, then how come those 86 pages, those 86 sides of animal skin, are so white? That's when everything starts to unravel. In 1844, and to this day, those 86 pages, 43 folia, 5 complete quires of 16 pages each, plus 3 extra folia, sheets cut in half, were and are white. In 1845 and 1850, a Russian religious official named Archimandrite Porfiry Uspensky visited, investigated, and wrote about the parts of the Sinaiticus Bible that were still intact, and he said they were white. But in 1859, Tischendorf convinced the Russian Tsar, through his wife, to give him lots of money, which he threw around like a rapper, and by hook or by crook, he got the rest of that bound book. His next report on it said that the pages were souflava, yellowed, stained, just like we find them today. So let's ask the simple questions. 1. How did it get like that? 2. Who changed it? 3. If Tischendorf didn't do it or approve of it, then why didn't he protest it? He had easy access to the 43 folia from 1844. He knew the difference. Now comes the big question I've asked all sorts of people. 4. If you believed you had the world's oldest Bible, why would you stain it? Why would you risk ruining it? Here are the answers that I've come to. 1. The rest of the book got stained between 1850 and November 1859. 2. Tischendorf stained it or approved of whoever did stain it. 3. Tischendorf didn't say anything about it because he hoped A, no one would notice, and B, people would think the Bible was older than he found out it was. And 4. Tischendorf felt he had to stain it. He didn't want others to discover the truth that it was a modern creation. That would ruin his plans. Not only might the Vatican renege on their promise to let Tischendorf work with the Vaticanus that they kept under lock and key, but the scholarly world wouldn't give him the gold and the glory he felt he deserved. I don't say these things lightly. I've spent time reading his biographies and writings and histories, checking the Sinaiticus manuscript over and over, every way I can think of. There are people who doubt all this, but you, as regular human beings with eyes and a brain, can see and consider everything I tell you. I put my ideas in plain sight. I don't try to be all intellectual about it. I don't use big words unless I clearly define them, but I prefer small ones. I want you to know the truth. And I want you to be able to look at the evidence and come to your own conclusions. Is the world's oldest Bible a fake? I put each idea and each question in its own chapter. There are 31 chapters. That's a lot of different ideas. If any one of those chapters is correct, we've got a fake on our hands. It cannot be the most ancient, complete New Testament plus some Old Testament and Apocrypha. It has to have been written centuries later, and it is part of an agenda. The agenda was very simple. The Vatican wanted their Codex Vaticanus to pave the way for a new Bible. But the paleographers wouldn't trust just one manuscript so different from the many texts supporting the King James. They needed a second. And that's where I think they took advantage of the recently created manuscript that had just been sent from Mount Athos in Greece to St. Catherine's Monastery in the Egyptian peninsula. The scholars were already taught to hate the received text in the very doctrinally clear King James Bible. It didn't matter that the Sinaiticus differed from the Vaticanus in thousands of places. It didn't matter that both Sinaiticus and Vaticanus had places that were poorly written twice, skipped or erased and rewritten. All that mattered was that Sinaiticus and Vaticanus did not agree with the King James and the many supporting manuscripts. Then you know what happened? A great change. Once they got both Sinaiticus and Vaticanus to play with. Lo and behold, the Protestant scholars suddenly found themselves agreeing with the Catholic scholars. Instead of the Catholic Inquisition threatening Christians with death for believing in the scriptures as they did with their forefathers, the Protestants just handed over their Bibles to be fixed by Rome's favorite texts, matching them to various changes and omissions in the Sinaiticus and Vaticanus. The result was what Rome wanted. That it was a Bible so subtly corrupt that the serpent himself must have been proud. It contradicted itself in crucial places. It removed powerful words that would have inspired faith. And it got doubting notes inserted into the footnotes by big-name scholars to make the doubters look like they were right after all. Ask your preacher or professor to show you his Bible. Ask him if he believes every word of that book he is holding in his hands. If he does not, then he was affected by Sinaiticus. It's that serious. And I'm not coming from the beginning of a trend prophesying that horrible doubts or disbelief and rebellion will happen with these subtle changes. I'm coming from the end of history, simply pointing out what all the surveys loudly state. In those that didn't trust the King James, all these horrible doubts, disbelief, and rebellion have already happened. Those added and removed words were past tense effective. They caused past tense people to lose their faith in God's words, or that God even kept his promise to preserve his words. The devil thought that this was the end. But then in their overconfidence, they let the truth slip out. For generations, no one had seen the Sinaiticus. And they took by faith the very teachings that caused them to doubt God and his words. But then they made them openly visible in 2009. And now anyone can see the truth. There is the famous story about an entire kingdom hornswoggled by a clever tailor. But it took just one child to make a simple observation that anyone could have noticed. It was in plain sight. But he's got nothing on. The king is naked. I think a shift is starting to happen. With the simple question, what color is it? The Sinaiticus story started to come apart for me. I wrote this book about what I found. And I documented the progress of the research on my YouTube channel as soon as I found a new element to talk about, a new simple question to ask, or a new piece of evidence to share. And now many of you, brothers and sisters, are taking the torch and asking those questions. It's high time that we did. Not a single modern version is untainted. They all either change the text or add doubting footnotes because of Sinaiticus. Even footnotes in many King James Bibles. Satan's plans are unraveling. Since this book, I've been working on the next one in the series. Discovering how, why, and when Sinaiticus was really written. And I'm so excited to share it with you. When I started this journey with you, I had no idea where it would lead. But now I see where it's leading. If people lose faith in the doubting Bibles, we can show them reasons to believe in God's preserved words in English, the King James Bible. And maybe revival can truly begin at that point. All I know is this has not been a journey into doubt. It has been an exercise in increasing faith. And when faith increases in God's people, they start to plunder Satan's kingdom. So be willing to ask those simple questions. Consider the evidence. Satan's kingdom of doubt is beginning to unravel. Let's show people how they can come to faith in God and his words. And then let's see what God will do through us. God bless you and have a wonderful day.